Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So, what I'm sharing today is my experience of tracking Chicago's urban foxes. So, I have been sort of more intensely, continuously observing them for 4 months, but I've been interested in this specific red fox family in Chicago for like maybe 2 years. So first of all, a little bit about me. I'm a tracker, like everyone here. I really enjoy taking TCNA's evaluations. I find it very rewarding, and it kind of fills in the East Asian task-taking gene. I get competitive with myself through the process. And I graduated from School of the Art Institute of Chicago. I studied the curriculum called Art and Environment. So below are a few projects that I've done. Our school doesn't really restrict kind of the major you take, and you could take whatever classes you want, from design to movie making or painting, photography. So this first image over here is a poem by, oh my god, I forgot his name. But this poem is called Nothing Can Stay. So it kind of tells you like the inherent impermanence of things, transience of things. So I collected some fallen leaves, some rocks, and barks, and then created this poem in Braille. And so when the audience touches it while they read it, it will gradually brush off this material and make the make this poem less and less readable. So kind of echoing this theme of Nothing Can Stay. I did this in my first year, and this is still one of my proudest pieces. So the second piece right here is, as you know, Chicago is a very urban city, and our school is also located in the center of the city. So many students are really suffering from the natural, deprived of nature. So this is one of our building. It has a really barren piece of lawn within it, and we kind of transformed it into a space for gathering and taking meal. And you can see a few buckets over here are the compost bins, and we are also growing stuff right there. And I also did some natural illustration classes and some more hardcore stuff like the welding. So yeah, and then about my journey was natural observations. I'm a really city kid. I grew up in the city and was really spoiled. So I used to watch a lot of documentaries. That's when I became interested in nature and wildlife, but never really go out to the field that much until a random occasion where I started birding, and that sort of started my time in the field observing and photographing. So I call myself a city-born who's trying to rewild herself. Okay, so let's go into our topic today. This is a bird's eye view of Chicago. So all the green stuff you're seeing over here is a system of parks. It's called Grand Park. It's nestled right next to the downtown area. That street over there is the Michigan Avenue, and with the famous Chicago skyline. And on the east side of it, it's the Lake Michigan. So in that red circle I put there is the Red Fox Den. It's in the middle of the city in Millennium Park, where there's annual visitors are just an amazingly high number. It's sort of like a buffer zone between, city and then no people living in the lake. Yeah, so I find it really interesting. And the building right to the south of that circle is our school and the museum. And you might recognize the bean over there. That's the very famous Chicago city sculpture. Okay, so just a little bit about the location. And Chicago has a lot of urban wildlife. These are some that I photographed. This is a peregrine on top of my apartment. And then I shot it through like 34th high. Probably shouldn't stick my camera out there, but I did. And then a silver-haired bat. I've actually saw a lot of them along Michigan Avenue, and many dead ones too. But this one is during its migration, it was nestling and resting inside this tree bark. And then our famous piping plovers, they are quite endangered in the Great Lakes area, and this is this year's breeding plovers. And then snowy owl, they sometimes get eruption years, and then this one standing on top of a public outdoors, what's the word? Restroom, yeah. Guardian of the mass entrance. And then coyotes. We have a lot of coyotes. This one is a collared individual in cemeteries. They really love cemeteries. So Chicago really is a coyote city. There are about 2,000 to 4,000 individuals. This is an estimate number from the Urban Coyote Project. This project has been going on for 20, 30 years, so it's a pretty long-term project. But red fox is a very globally widespread species, but it is locally scarce in Chicago. And data from the 1980s show foxes outcompeted by the city's thriving coyotes. And predator control effort has likely caused that uprise of coyotes in our region. So I'm very interested in the red fox, especially when I heard that there's some of them living right in Millennium Park. Yeah, so that's how I started observing them. This is in April 2022 when I first saw these from my own eyes, not from stories heard by others. So this year they had two kids. Here I only saw one. Unfortunately, both of these kids died really early in the breeding season. I heard this later on from interactions with horticulturalists. Yeah. So this is our main character, Fox Dad. Okay. So winter of 2022 and 2023. This is the season where I started actually snow tracking in the city. I really used to not want to stay a second long in an urban park. It's just such a curated nature scene and too many people. But since that winter, I noticed it's just so many animal activities, and I couldn't walk out of the park within 2 or 3 hours. It's really crazy. And no matter if it's domesticated animals like a dog or an introduced species like brown rat or actually native species, they all have very interesting stories to tell. So this first picture is of a Canadian goose. So you can see it walking over, sitting down, where you can see the tarsus mark, and then some beak marks under the snow, picking out the grasses, and then it stood up and circled off. In the middle are some brown rat trails. There are so many of them. And then the third one is Eastern Cottontail. Okay. So Christmas Eve of 2022, I found my first urban fox tracks, and they're right next to this 8-lane Lakeshore Drive. Yeah, and I mean some other people have also found it on the other side of this drive, so it's quite crazy to imagine them crossing that street with that crazy traffic. Maybe at night, who knows? Yeah, I was traveling on this raised stone wall. And then I was out of town the entire January, unfortunately. But as soon as I got back, I was blessed with very great findings. This is right in front of our school, and I find a fox trail with asterisks in it. In the third photo, I'm not sure if you could see it really well. It was a garden where I couldn't access. I walked in, and then there was this sound above me and telling me to get off. The museum people are watching me. Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately, that February we didn't see a lot of snow, but we were able to get some fresh snow days where, like, previously, the day before there was like nothing on the ground. And then it just provided really ideal situation to look at only one night's activity, the second day. So let's travel back to February 17th, 2023 together. Okay. So on the piece of lawn close to the cloud gate, close to the bean, I found our Red Fox Trail. This really straight line, purposeful stride, and that pretty obvious chevron-shaped palm pad. So the red star marks where we are on the map. As we follow it, here is an overpass from the Millennium Park to our museum. So I was backtracking its trail and find this U-turn mark on the little hill next to that overpass. You can see the squat and the yellow circle marks the P. And so we followed it. It was trotting next to these bushes. There was a gray squirrel that joined us later than the fox. And yeah, I love finding these track ice that you could pick up. But they melt really fast when they're in my hand. Okay, and so we now enter the Lorry Garden together with the fox. It is walking on the staircase that we also walked, but it also traversed the garden where people are not allowed in. And here's another urine mark at the edge of the park on this lawn. And look at how it trotted right into the lawn just with its pee, and then it's gone. So later on during my observations, I found that this fox really loves to mark on this piece of lawns, but it's also somewhere people enjoy to sit and walk on. So you can find these scats that are stomped on, so they're flat. This was in April when I photographed it peeing right in the central area in the park. It also found it also cached a chicken leg. And this is what it looks like normally in the summer. Can't imagine how these people will feel when they know that the fox has been peeing all over.
They're picnic.
And that's the fox in the winter. So in the winter, this piece of lawn is closed. It's only opened in summer for music festivals and things like that. Okay, and at the end of this day, its trail led us to this space under this tree. And this is last year's fox den. It is, the metal grid around this tree is covered in snow in this picture, but you'll see it in later on. Yeah, so there's some space right under this metal grid, under the tree. Maybe they have extended those stuff, but I mean, I'm curious about the structure under it because I don't know if it's solid or soil, or I have no idea. But you can see the tracks going in and out. So this was that day, and I drew down where I back trailed it. But I started doing these at first, but then I found that the fox just goes everywhere in the park. So this is the Lower Garden. Um, it hosts many art activities on a regular basis too, and it is also this fox family, this fox home. Okay, so this was another day when I was snow trailing, and this first image is the edge of the Millennium Park, and across the street to the east side of it is another park called Maggie Daly. I had this tingle when I saw this trail on the stone wall, and then I looked to the other side of the street. It was right there. But it was I was going to a conference that day, so I only had a few minutes before that to really investigate. I didn't bring my camera either. I've never had a photo of a fox in snow yet, and I was like, oh, I should have brought my camera with me all the time. So the third image, while it was doing this stuff, I was crossing the street by the traffic light, so I didn't see its actual movement, but I feel like it was kind of like, loping or galloping around and then leaving the tail drag alongside its tracks. And also what I noticed while I was crossing the street was a group of Canada geese that were on this lawn flew away. So maybe they were spooked away by the fox, I don't know. So on that side you can see a red fox sitting mark. So of course I first followed the fox and took some photos, images, and then when it was gone from my vision, I went back and looked at what tracks it made. So this street right here where that yellow car was driving on, when I saw these tracks sort of maybe connecting these two parks, I thought that this is probably one place that the fox will cross the street. So tracking helped me anticipate its movements, its routes. So on another day when the fox was in that garden and moving towards the bushes close to that road, I was able to kind of anticipate what it's going to do, and I ran down to the street, and there it was trying to cross the street. So yeah, I was very lucky to get these photos. And yeah, so during those months, my eyes were so well trained that I could spot their tracks really soon. Oh my god, sorry, I haven't changed the Chinese characters to English.
I like that.
And the emoji. Yeah, so yeah, it was, these were some scats. These are some scats that I found. Sorry? Oh.
The emoji translates.
Yes.
Universal.
And here are several of the iconic public structures in Chicago. The Cloud Gate, it was right in front, and then a very good view to the modern wing of our school's museum on the second image. And our school has an environmentalist club, and I took people out to dissect the scats and look at the little bones in it. So I wondered if there are any scats in the middle of the road, by the road junctures. These are always sort of identifying features of canine scats, but I wasn't able to find a lot of those. But, and I thought that, so one day I saw this, the sign of the sign, a scat that was there and swept away. Swept away by horticulturalists who work in the morning to clean the parks. This looks a little large, the liquid, the wet imprint, but you could imagine a scat, so the moisture kind of runs over to the sides, runs out a little bit, so it looks a little large. But I was still able to find a bit, some scats on the trail and at junctures. This was no dog poop. This was in another park. It's not in Millennium Park, but a more suburban park in Chicago, and so the coyotes there likes to leave poops on the roads, and someone must have thought that an irresponsible dog walker have left those stuff there. Okay, so back to our fox story. And from late March, I began to find fresh prey and eaten carcass at the den entrance. This is a little feral pigeon. So I was really excited to find it, and so I was standing on top of that metal grid, and I felt like through this dead creature, I'm somehow connected to living scenes right down my feet in that darkness. Even though I've never seen them, but they're there, and that's nurtures the living. So, and this pigeon, just look at how it's being skinned. Like it looks like a tiny little vulture with that bloody head and like just feathers on the back of its head. And when it was snowing, it's easy to find evidence of an active den. You could find tracks going in and out of it. But when it was not snowing, you could still see that the entrance, the foliage is cleared away due to this constant activity in and out. So that bare earth signifies where the den is. Yeah. So since that time I've also I start to see the actual fox a lot. So this is dad. And as you probably know, red fox dad are a very responsible father figure in the animal world. And they do a lot of the hunting and feeding the youngs, and the female fox who mostly spends her time under the ground. Yeah, so these are two bulls in his mouth. And then on that same day, after delivering some food, he was enjoying a cottontail to himself. So this image is a Virginia rail. So if you could see behind this rail in that space is the den's entrance. Yeah. The rail, a really dead rail on a rainy day. So as a birder, it kind of saddens me that my first Virginia rail is that one.
Yeah.
But luckily, on the second day, I saw a living one in the park. Okay, yeah. So, this poem by Mary Oliver I really enjoy, and I felt was really true to my own experience. And part of it says, "When I'm alone, I can become invisible. I can sit on top of a dune, as motionless as an uprise of weeds, until the foxes run by unconcerned." This is what happened to me when I was photographing bees. So, I usually spend like maybe 30 minutes to an hour before school starts to walk around the parks, trying to see if I could bump into the fox or find some of its tracks and signs. So this day I wasn't very successful. I found nothing, and then I just started to, there's still like 20 minutes before my class, and I sat on a bench next to its den and started reading some reading materials, and then I just heard some noises in the bush, and here comes the fox. It looked at me, and I looked at him, with 4 baby cottontails in his mouth. Yeah. He then entered the den and delivered these food. Yeah, yeah, it was quite crazy. So some other wildlife in the park. A gray squirrel. I saw this one collecting some foliage and running up to its tray. It was pretty cool to see the animals in action, like making the tracks and signs. Here's another one in the park. A female, what's it called again? Eastern cicada killer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. In action, making these breeding dance. So at first, when I was looking from afar, I was like, "Is that a pocket gopher?" But then I went close to see, and these tunnels on top of the dirt mound are so clear. Yeah, it was a great encounter. And here's another one of red-breasted nuthatch working on its little workshop, jamming the seeds into the bark crevices. Yeah. Here's another really urban situation. So someone left a bag of cartwheel chips, and everyone's feasting on it. Yeah, from gray squirrel to grackle and red-winged blackbirds. Yeah, urban diet. Here's unfortunately an American woodcock found dead in front of my school building. So I'm not super sure about how it died, but I have like maybe two speculations. Because I couldn't find its head anywhere, so I wondered about peregrine falcon. But also, on this first image over here, you can see that really reflective glass of our museum. So I wondered about window strike, but there was no any like contact marks left on the glass anywhere. So I don't know. And I noticed this dead animal first because there were two crows feeding on it. So the woodcock looks really flat on the ground, so I was not really able to pick it up just walking past it, but this crow alerted me to the food. Yeah, it was very striking to see. And then, so I waited for the crows to leave before I go in and investigate and take photographs. It spent quite a long time over there. And then the crows went back. One of the crows came back, and it was like standing on top of the tree and calling at me, like go away from my food. I still had one composition in mind to do, so I stayed there. And the crow came down from the tree and walked closer to me and continued its eviction notice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so these are fox tracks on different substrates in the city. The first one, this is probably the most perfect track I've ever found of a red fox. This is on top of the metal grid over the den. So you could see the fluffy fur of the feet really well. And then you could still make out the parts of the pads. The second one is a very light impression on heavily packed snow. The third one is under that overpass across the street. There was some mud. That was the only bit of mud in an urban park. Yeah. And then this fourth one is the rubber stuff on the ground in the playground.
That's pretty cool.
So when it's not snowing, the concrete city roads make it really difficult for tracks to register. But days after rain is a good time to find some. So you can see tracks covered all over this metal grid over here. And then the image on the right is the one we've seen on the previous slide. And then the one to the corner of this slide, it's a smaller track, 1 inch. So I found this by the end of April. So can anyone tell me what it means? Babies! Thank you.
Look.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh.
Okay. I'll leave some time for everyone to all. Yeah. So. And then they went away. It was not really interested in it. But you know, I have seen it eat chicken legs, so. Yeah. So those two images on top, they are the ruby crown kinglet. This was also pretty surprising too, because I mean, I usually see them hanging on trees. Our golden crown kinglets, they do come up to the ground quite a lot, but maybe I just haven't seen the ruby crown do it. Yeah. So among the preys, I want to talk about the voles and the rats. So this map over here illustrates the Millennium Park and the Maggie Daly Park that I talked about. These are two neighboring parks, and they have pretty different distribution of animals. I've almost never found any vole signs in Millennium, but they are very abundant in Maggie Daly. This is a 20-acre park with 9 acres of native planting. So you do see a lot of vole activities in the native plants. And rats, of course, they love to hang out in a neighboring park. And Millennium Park is more of a place where people just abandon their food and rats pick it up to eat. So, and here are some beautiful vole signs. So here are some vole tunnels, and then voles trotting on top of the snow, and then the pretty clear vole tracks. And the last image, some of those are seeds, but the last three on the bottom of the image, those are vole scats. I just find it funny that they kind of look similar. Okay, so here's another pretty interesting encounter. Turkeys, they don't come into the city that often, and for Chicago birders, this is a species that they would chase if they see it in the city. So, you know, like those pretty aggressive listers, they chase the turkeys in the city. So this was an evening where when I took a friend to see the fox, and we didn't have any luck, but then just all of a sudden, a turkey was just emerged from the bush onto this tree. And we were so surprised. And then the fox circled around from the bush behind. So we sort of wondered maybe the fox was like, you know, spooking it. And then the second morning, I found a lot of turkey scats under the tree, and the turkey is already gone. If I hadn't seen the turkey the day before, I wouldn't be able to figure out what those scats are from, because they're just so rare in the city. Okay, so these foxes. This is the bench that I mentioned about, like when I was sitting and the fox just showed up. And that fox really loves this bench. He just loves to sit on it and watch over the kids while they play. Yeah, and the image in the middle where the fox and the lady was sitting in the background, it was taken by the Lower Gardens horticulturalist. So, So you can see that there's this metal fence that surrounds the area of the den. It looks quite obvious. It's like, so I kind of befriended the horticulturalist throughout these few months. And as the kids starts to emerge, it's really easy for them to encounter humans, because this is a road where you could just walk freely over. And given the year before's experience, when both of the kids died, we thought that maybe we want to do something to protect them. But Millennium Park only has this really obvious big fence, so it actually attracted some attention from people who doesn't know what's happening. So they're like going, oh, why is this place fenced, and actually attracting some attention at first. So this image down below, you can see that people are sitting on the bench and that little fox head is popping up. And then the image above is when dad is sitting on the bench and then people are watching the kids. So as people starts to gather around and hearing the news about the foxes and coming over wanting to see them, there are some occasions of possible conflicts. The foxes are mostly more alert of dogs than humans. So the image on the left corner is when dad sees a dog getting too close. So this is the first posture that it gets into when it felt alert. And then if you continue to get closer to him, he will walk over towards you, walk a few steps towards you, and then stops. And then if you don't back up, he'll come up even more, kind of like that. And then it became so well known that, the news have reported on this family. To be honest, I don't feel like this is the right time to really advertise, but to make this more well known to the general public. I went home that summer break, so I wasn't able to really follow up on the story personally. But the horticulturalist told me that later on they had to expand the fenced area. So first of all, you can see this black fence that was added, and then later on they had to basically block the entire road because just too many people were coming over because of this media attention. So I went back home, but then the day before my flight, I told the horticulturalist, how about let's make an infographic for people to read. So that's what I did. I spent so the moment after I sent this finished draft to them, it still took them 10 days to print it out. So by that 10th day, these foxes have already left the park. But it was still good for people to read it. So they went over to Maggie Daly. Yeah. So on the other side of the world, Shanghai is the city that I'm based in. We have another urban canid, which is the raccoon dog. It was given the name because it looks like a raccoon, but I would say that other than the look, they got the diet and the latrine making behavior like the raccoon as well. They are a very unique canid. They're one of the earliest canids in the old world, and they have very different ecology and behavior than other, foxes, wolves, dogs. They're native to Asia and introduced in some European countries for the fur trade, so you can still see them in Europe. And in Shanghai, they live in our apartment complexes. So an apartment complex is a very common living situation within China, where you're just maybe imagine an urban park and you put some apartment buildings in it. So an apartment complexes usually have some greeneries, and then people just live in these apartments. So we also have a very serious feral cats problem. And during the pandemic, people were like, quarantined at home, have nothing to do, and they were feeding the cats. They always do it, but during the pandemic, because more people are at home, so there are more feeding behaviors. And sorry, and the raccoon dogs also feast on these cat feeds, and they were competing, and then the raccoon dogs increased drastically in number. So it sort of caused this problem, this raccoon dog takeover. And there are people studying this species, this really urban saturation. The point of mentioning this story is that I've kind of been thinking from Chicago's foxes to Shanghai's raccoon dog. Urban wildlife really can't avoid the fate of being seen on a regular basis and interacting with people. And so while I was drafting the infographic for coexisting with rat fox, I thought about maybe adding like a safety distance to keep between humans and the foxes, but it was really impossible to give a number. And sometimes, the fox just runs by you when it's not concerned. So yeah, that's sort of something I've been thinking. And if you go to like a preserve or a national park, you might sometimes get a sign that says how far you should keep from a bear, or how far you should keep from a moose. But it's really hard to determine that for urban creatures. And we sort of just have to think about the situation and just, try to respectfully live among them. Take them as our neighbors, as our really intimate neighbors. So for my graduation show at SAIC, I made this self-bound book about the fox family. I'm really appreciative of these foxes. They helped me see Chicago in a very different light. I, throughout the process, learned how to inspect the livability of a city through their perspective. And as someone who wants the wilderness, but is living in a city, they were really good spiritual support. And also as an international student in a foreign place, I sort of felt that I'm tackling similar challenges as these foxes that are living in completely different places than you would normally thought of. Yeah. And so for the book, I also touched upon a little bit upon the artistic aspect of tracking. This is one of the things that really drew me into tracking, thinking about shapes, sizes, materials, clay and wood. These are also things that artists think a lot about. And then topics like the permanent and the transient. And then thinking about how an object acts on a substrate is also a lot that artists, sculptors think about. And picturing the whole through partial tracks and obscure signs. So that image is one spread in my book where I tried to explore this topic through photography and picturing multi-species interactions. And I really love how tracks and signs can bring species that are in different temporal niches together for you to study at the same time. Yeah, and so these two images down below, they are two pretty famous art pieces. The first one is Spiral Jetty by Robert Smithson in the Salt Lake in Utah. This is a very famous land art piece. And land art is usually defined as a work that incorporates the natural surroundings that it is in, or a work that mostly utilizes natural materials. So to me, I think all animals are natural artists. And this other piece that I felt has many strong connections to animal tracking is, I don't know how to read this French, but this is an oil painting by Renee Margaret, and on the image it says, "This is not a pipe." So this is a very realistic and 3D drawing of a pipe, but Renee is reminding us that what we're talking about, what we're seeing in the image is not an actual pipe, but a representation of a pipe. I saw some suspicious look from Daniel.
Oh,
Okay, no? Thank you.
So, yeah, resonance. Just
Okay, great. Love it. Yeah, so this is, I'm still sort of like exploring the artistic relations and aspects of tracking, but just want to say that I find a lot of similarities between the tracker and the artists. So in the book, I've also incorporated many poems that I really love about tracking. Here's one by Meryl Gilfillan. Deer tracks stepping delicately over the horse droppings. Here's another one that I really love by Jared K. Anderson, who calls himself the crypto-naturalist. So it goes, the fossil is not the animal. The fossil is not the bones of the animal. The fossil is the stone's memory of the bones of the animal. And that's a poetry other than words. So to connect it to tracking, tracks and signs, I feel like it's the lens memory of the movement of the animal. Okay, so this is sort of like an Easter egg portion. After summer break, so I went home for 3 months, and then I tried to re-find the foxes, but I wasn't very successful. Okay, let's stay on this side. So I saw it once, right before last year's conference, and then wasn't really able to spot any more tracks and signs of it. Sometimes bits and bobs over here, but not a lot. I feel like I've lost the flow, you know? But okay, so this was an image that people took back in January 2023 of 2 foxes in the train tracks in a city. So this is South Michigan Avenue, just so you kind of know the location, like between the parks and the Michigan Avenue skyline. Maybe possibly a breeding pair following each other. Okay, so I was successful once. This year's January, I finally found some brown fox tracks, and they're inside this train track. And this year we had even less snow, with El Nino and tropical storms. But we had 1 week of heavy snowfall and really low temperature. So that week I went out, the first 5 days I found nothing. I went to every spot that the fox, where I used to have found the fox or seen its signs, but nothing was to be found. And I even found 3 coyotes in the Maggie Dairy Park. Yeah, it was kind of sad. But then on the last 2 days, right before the snow receded, I finally spotted their tracks in the train tracks. I mean, I know that foxes and coyotes in Chicago use these train tracks. I just don't know why I haven't thought of it earlier and checked the train tracks earlier. But anyways, I did find them. You could see I was using binoculars because I couldn't get them up close and personal. You can still see in that middle image there's a pretty clear chevron pad and other features. So on the left, this fox is traveling right in the middle of one train track. And then the second image here, on the right of the fence is a dog park, and on the left of the fence is the fox. Yeah. Okay. So I spent so I found these signs one afternoon. But in winter daytimes are short. I wasn't really able to continue tracking. But the second morning, I went out right at sunrise to trail the entire train tracks, and I spent the entire day doing that. It's just a few blocks, but I spent the entire day doing that. And I left one section where I thought that the fox might come up from the train track to the ground level, to the end. And when I get to it, I see the actual fox. Let me point. Right here. Right here is a maintenance train. So it only goes out when maintenance is needed. So it's been parked there for a while. This fox has been resting under the maintenance train. It was, I mean, this might be a little projecting my feelings onto the fox, but I thought it looked really surprised when it seen me. Like, how did you find me? I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. Yeah. This is so you can see in the previous slide it was already around sunset. And the second morning I went out really early to look under the maintenance train to see if I could see a sleeping fox, and it was there. I didn't put the image over here, but it was just like a red little fluffy ball under the train. But unfortunately I spooked it. But it ran just a few, like maybe 100 meters away over here. And I did manage to take a few photos of it. And for the third image, I timed my shooting at the same time when cars pass by.
That's so clever.
Yeah, because it gets really alert when my camera shutter goes off. So this is a very interesting location. So this train track has several lanes, maybe like, I don't know, 5 or 6 lanes. It's quite wide. And so it's underground. It's sort of like a sink. Sorry for my bad description. And then, but under this train track, there's also a road going under the train track where cars can go, like, underground, like the lower level of Chicago streets. So that's what's depicted on the second image. So the fox is on the train tracks level, and then you see the cars going down under. This is the entrance of like the lower level streets. So I was staying there. It's impossible to spot the fox from all 3 other sides of it. You could only see it from this directly next to the fox on top of on the ground level. So I was really, I was only able to see it when I was this close to the fox. So it was quite easy to, spook it. Yeah. And on that third image, I don't know if you can notice a little bit of lost fur on its hind leg. I don't know if it's not, what's the living situation of this fox is like down there, because there's quite a lot of garbage right next to where it's sleeping. You could see it over here too. I saw like one pigeon that it killed, but most of the other times it was just feeding on like snow. It looks like it was eating nothing. And I checked the spot where it was feeding later on and saw that there were just some sunflower seeds that people were feeding the pigeons with. So yeah, I would say it's not really, it doesn't really have a great living situation down there. And this fox was really highly alert. So I don't know if it's because it's not on ground level and lower than like the people on the streets, or it could be that it's not the same individual as Dad Fox, because Dad Fox was really bold and he's like, the owner of the city and doesn't even face when I walk past by it. But this fox was like, I was in the dark and it was in the more lighter area. I was in the more lighter area and it was in the dark. So it was harder for me to see it than for the fox to see me. And a lot of times when I get to see the fox, it was already like running away. It doesn't want to be close to me at all. Even when like I couldn't access the train tracks, it's still like very sort of shy and timid. Yeah. And there's the pooping on the train track.
Yay.
Great shot.
That's,
you.
Joy, that's that poop like you went and found this cat after?
No, it's the different poop. It's a different poop. Yeah, so this is the fox under the maintenance train again.
Oh, wow.
The little head. Okay. So that's the end of the Easter egg, and after that I traveled somewhere else, and then for the entire spring of 2024, for this year, I didn't see any more activities at the old den. I don't think they've breeded, at least not anywhere close to the city. Yeah, it was a little bit of a pity because I sort of stayed in Chicago trying for the foxes to breed again. But that's sad. Yeah, that's just nature. And here are a few resources that I've found very useful. If you wanna, that I also want to share with you guys. This Instagram page. Sam Dunes, this person has been putting out like trail cameras for the rat fox close to her house for like 5 or 6 years, or maybe 10, I don't remember. But it was really helpful because during my observation period, I found that their rat fox usually like their schedule's usually 1 week ahead of ours. So I could watch the video and then know what to look for in the next week for my foxes. And then another book is The Hidden World of the Fox. This author is from British. And I don't know if, you probably know that like London is full of urban foxes. And there's a lot of study over there. And some discussions over whether or not you should feed them. Yeah. And then another 2 books on urban ecology that I really enjoy. The first one is The Accidental Ecosystem. I forgot who the author is. Another one is City Creatures. This book is a compilation of poems, articles, illustrations, murals of city creatures in Chicago. And lastly, a little bit about what I'm doing right now. I'm from China. I'm an international student, and I've graduated right now. So I went back. I'm currently spending most of my time in China. Here are two projects that I've done. One is on iNaturalist. I started a project tracking China to record online database for reference. Sort of inspired by the very awesome North American tracking database on iNaturalist. And another project that I've done was over at Field Museum. I contacted the mammal department, and there happened to be their assistant manager used to teach in China in the Beijing's Academy of Science, and he studied Chinese mammals over there. So I photographed and measured the feet of 128 species that have distributions within China to help study the tracks later on. And I found that North America has really great tracking communities and resources, and that's something that's lacking in China. We don't have a lot of comprehensive field guides like in here, and this project is sort of reverse engineering, studying tracks from the feet first. It really allowed me to look at a whole range of different species, understand their morphology really quick. I think that's it. Okay, thank you very much.